What is up, guys? It's your boy, Rick. Go to the Tangled Shore with the Ace of Spades on February 21st. Kakis here. Guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to support the channel and let me know what you think my next intro should be. That comment section, it's absolutely wild. Alright, today we are going to be showcasing my 5 favorite, what I think are the 5 best legendary weapons that were released into Destiny 2 within 2021. So that is during Season of the Chosen, Season of the Splicer, Season of the Lost, and the 30th Anniversary Update. Out of all those different additions, out of all of those different legendary weapons, which ones and which god rolls were the best? Well, let's start here with a couple of honorable mentions. These weapons are fantastic, but just missed out on the top 5. And the first one is the extraordinary rendition kinetic submachine gun from Season of the Chosen. Holy crap, I've used this thing a lot during the year. It can get the PvE god rolls of Overflow plus Frenzy or Rampage, and either one is just fantastic. A 750 RPM SMG with Overflow, so you're getting over 50 rounds in the magazine with an extended mag perk, just spits out so much damage. Like, 750s are a little bit on the rarer side, especially with this good of stats as well. This is one of the better and more accurate 750s out there. It is just so easy to use, and it just is so good with that PvE god roll. But moving on from there, the second honorable mention that just missed is the BXR 55 Battler. Now, this thing has some godly PvP rolls, stuff like Perpetual Motion plus Kill Clip and so on, but what I'm showing off here is the PvE, in my opinion, god roll of Demolitionist plus Adrenaline Junkie. That's right, get more grenades and then get a huge benefit for using those grenades. An absolute wombo combo, and by far the easiest weapon to farm for that has this combo. So if you don't want to farm Prophecy Dungeon, this is your best bet, and it is a really solid weapon, just inherently having that better hipfire accuracy than other pulse rifles is really putting this into a league of its own, because it's just a feature that's, again, better than other pulse rifles, right? So that's going to differentiate it quite a bit. Guys, that's it for the honorable mentions. Let's move on here to the actual list, and coming in at number 5 we have the Shadow Price. This auto rifle was a Nightfall reward introduced with Season of the Chosen, and holy crap, I was high on this thing from the start. It can get the unbelievably good PvE god roll of Overflow plus One for All on an auto rifle, right? It's so darn easy to activate both of these perks. I mean, just running over a special finder brick, which happens all the time, is going to give you over 90 rounds in the magazine. And then, as you can imagine, just hitting 3 different enemies with a 90 round auto rifle is pretty easy to do, and therefore One for All is active just all the time, giving you a 35% damage increase. And especially when this first came out, I liked it, right? But now this season, when anti-barrier auto rifles are the only anti-barrier mod present on the seasonal artifact, this went up in value so much because it's a precision frame. It does have that accuracy to reach out and shred barrier champion shields from considerable ranges away. I have used this thing in several Grandmasters and it has been fantastic. Now with the Arbalest, that might be changing, but that doesn't diminish how much play I got out of this gun even into the end game. I think it was a really important part of the meta, especially within Season of the Lost, because of that mod. And again, I think it's one of the best PvE auto rifles in the game, and it came out this year. But it is time to move on from there to pick number 4, and that's going to the IS Luna hand cannon. Now, I'm sure some of you think this deserves to be higher on the list, but remember, I am factoring in how much I've played with these weapons, and the IS Luna only just entered the game with the 30th Anniversary Update. Now, the roll I'm showing off in the background gameplay is, in my opinion, the PvE god roll, which is actually unrelenting because this can get it in the left-hand column, which is very rare. That's going to heal you for getting kills with this weapon and then Headstone. This weapon with Headstone is just an absolute dream in PvE. You're going to be triggering it so darn much. Combined with a Stasis subclass, you're getting so much synergies for shattering those Stasis crystals that you're spawning, for just getting headshots with a weapon with unbelievable stats and aim assist. Like, it's pretty darn easy to do. So not only is this thing making a dent in PvE, but holy crap, is it making a dent in PvP as well. This is arguably the best legendary hand cannon in the game for PvP. And we had a lot. We had the Fatebringer, we had the Palindrome, I think, too, and the Ayasuna kind of went in and stepped ahead of all of them because of its outrageously good stats, fantastic rolls, and the fact that it's a stasis weapon, and having access to that unique Headstone stasis perk sets it apart from so much of the competition. This is truly a fantastic weapon. Even though it was added quite recently, it's already made a huge dent in the meta. But moving on from there, at space number 3, it's going to the Ignition Code Grenade Launcher. Back in Season of the Splicer, this was the weapon you wanted, and for good reason. The seasonal mod made grenade launchers inflict a weakening effect on enemies. Like, grenade launchers were the absolute meta, and the Ignition Code was one of the top ones on that meta. Now, there was actually quite a few good legendary grenade launchers introduced around that time, but I think the Ignition Code stood out, mainly because at the time it was the only kinetic grenade launcher you could get, and it was also the first time ever we could get a grenade launcher with slide shot. Now, my roll, I completely lucked out because I got blinding grenades and spike grenades and slide shot and Vorpal weapon, which is really what you want because this thing was used, in Grandmaster Nightfalls all the time, because grenade launchers could stun unstoppable champions, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. But I also have Thresh if I'm doing a more general activity where Vorpal isn't going to be active. And just the amount of damage you can put out with this grenade launcher when you shoot, slide, shoot, slide, shoot, like, you can just pump out so much more rounds than a normal grenade launcher, right? Like, your volley of fire is truly insane, and that's why the Ignition Code deserves a spot on this list. It's just such a fantastic overall weapon. And even though it was mainly utilized in PvE, I also saw plenty of clips of people using the slide shot roll, or should I say abusing the slide shot roll in PvP and going on absolute streaks, sliding, shooting, again in the Crucible before breech-loaded grenade launchers were nerfed somewhat recently in Season of the Lost. So again, this deserves the number 3 slot in my opinion. But moving on from there, at the number 2 slot, we've actually got the Judgment Hand Cannon. So, this drops from the Prophecy Dungeon. It was introduced with Season of the Lost when that loot was kind of refreshed, and its role of Demolitionist plus timed payload, for me personally, has eclipsed the other thing that I think would arguably tie at this number 2 spot, which is of course the Fatebringer. Like, the Fatebringer, especially the PvE role of Explosive plus Frenzy, and then of course you have a lot of PvP Fatebringer roles, Explosive plus Opening Shot, whatever. Like, the Fatebringer is unbelievable, but again, for me personally, because this is my list, I've got to put the Judgment in the place of it, just because for me, that passive Demolitionist bonus, getting more grenades so much for using this thing, is something that I value just a little bit more than getting that slight damage increase from Frenzy that you get with the Fatebringer. I've just found having Inherent Demolitionist is a little bit more useful, and I've used this Judgment up to the highest echelons of content that you can. You're not going to bring it into a Grandmaster because hand cannons don't have a place within the seasonal artifact, but certainly I've used it up to Master Raids and so on. It is a really fantastic weapon. What you're really going for is that timed payload. Timed payload or explosive payload is going to provide you with like a 10 to 15% damage increase against PvE enemies literally all the time. right? What's the point of activating Frenzy, Rampage, all these other perks that make you jump through hoops to get them active, but these explosive perks just give you an inherent damage increase. They are so darn useful, and they have no range drop-offs. The main downside of hand cannons is that the range drop-off is pretty severe, and so if you're trying to shoot an acolyte from across the map, it's going to take like 5 shots to take him down. But with time payload or explosive payload, it's still like a 2-shot kill. It has literal infinite range, solving the main downside of hand cannons. Truly an incredible PvE weapon. I think the Fatebringer is arguably a little bit better in PvP, but again, think of those two in the same slot here. However, it is time to move on from there to the number 1 weapon, and I'll admit there's a bit of a recency bias here, but I think it goes to the Cartesian coordinate. Reintroduced with Season of the Chosen, this thing really didn't see a lot of play, didn't get a lot of attention until, of course, Season of the Lost with particle deconstruction, where fusion rifles were suddenly meta. We looked back and we saw, wait a minute, this is a rapid fire frame fusion, and remember, rapid fires specifically actually got a huge PvE buff. They're now doing about 15% more damage against PvE combatants within Season of the Lost and moving forward, and they now shoot more projectiles, and this is one that can get Vorpal weapon. Now, the one I'm using is actually the roll that Banshee, the gunsmith, sold a few days ago, and holy crap, it was basically an arguable 5 out of 5 in my opinion, giving you that insane charge time and also getting you access to Vorpal weapon, which is really what you need. If you have a Cartesian with Vorpal, you're set. You're going to be taking down raid bosses. You're going to be absolutely slapping any mini bosses, champions, whatever you come across. This thing outputs so much damage in PvE, it is actually insane. Like, again, this thing can take down raid bosses by itself, no problem. Not to mention that with lead from gold, it slots in perfectly to so many S+ tier PvE builds, because if you're using something like the 1K voices or the sleeper simulant, which has become super meta recently since its buff, where you're going to want to have linear fusion finders and scavengers, right? And then you just run this thing, so when you pick up heavy ammo, it also gets ammo, and it also can output so much darn damage. It is the perfect thing to run in PvE. And in PvP too, there's been a lot of love for fusion rifles ever since, again, they got changed, and especially the rapid fires, because they're shooting out so much more projectiles, they absolutely slap in the Crucible, and the Cartesian can get under pressure for PvP, making an absolute force in the Crucible as well. Coming out of 2021, I think the Cartesian coordinate deserves a top spot on the best legendary weapons list. But guys, what do you think? Do you disagree with any of these rankings? Are there some weapons I didn't mention that you think deserve to be on this list? Let me know in the comment section down below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.